If you would, please rise. I'm going to call on Commissioner Marshall for the invocation and the pledge.
Dear Lord, I'd like to thank you for the day that you blessed us with, a day that we've never seen. Dear Lord, I'd like to thank you for those who came out to participate in their local government and pray for those who wanted to be here but couldn't be here. I ask, Lord, that you give us guidance and wisdom as we continue to represent our county, our constituents in the best manner that we know how. Dear Lord, we'd like to thank you for the staff that we have to carry out the various duties that they do from the day-to-day basis. And dear Lord, I'd like to say a special prayer for those who've lost their life and to the violence, recent days from pandemic, from protests. And dear Lord, we ask that you continue to shine on our community, more importantly, and keep us humble enough to know that we are all to be thankful for that you blessed us with. All these blessings I ask and thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Marshall. First off, do we have any Leadership Lounge folks that's with us tonight? If y'all would, please rise. Thank y'all. Y'all just got off of boot camp, so you should be fresh and ready to go. So congratulations. I hope you're enjoying it. Commissioners, inside your packet, you'll find your minutes of the work session of January the 9th, as well as your regular session minutes also of January the 9th. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections that need to be made, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes.
Can we have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 5A is our one appointment that we have. This is for the Valdosta Lounge Development Authority. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. The seat that is currently held by Mr. Brad Folsom expired on January the 1st of this year. Mr. Folsom has expressed a desire to continue to serve.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dukes? All right, Commissioners, I'll open up the floor for nominations.
Nominate Mr. Brad Folsom.
Okay, we have the nomination for Mr. Brad Folsom. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations and Mr. Brad Folsom will be reappointed by acclamation. Agenda item 6A is our one public hearing item. This is REZ 2022-20 Terramore Development LLC. This involves 3 acres at Highway 122 and Skipper Bridge Road. It is currently EA and the request is for CC, and it will have well and septic. Mr. Dillard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Again, the request before you is 3 acres from EA to from its currently EA to CC zoning. Again, the future land use map here does recommend CC zoning in the rural service area and agricultural forestry character area. There are no wetlands depicted on the map according to GIS. However, in the applicant's overall site plan, there are some depicted, and if approved, would have to be mitigated through civil engineering phases. The adjacent property owners' residential structures are listed here by approximate distance in feet. And this is the standard facade for a Dollar General. The applicant has indicated they are open to an enhanced facade for the facility if approved. Again, the Planning Commission heard this back in November, and recommended denial 7-1. But staff did recommend approval of the request. But the question before you now is EA to CC for the 3 acres, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Dillard at this time? Okay. All right. We're going to move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. I want to let everybody know that each side will get 10 minutes total. Mr. Costu will start the clock, and then you'll have 10 minutes. So whoever needs to be the spokesperson for each side, please be prepared because that's what we're going to do, 10 minutes. All right. First off, we'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. Yes, sir. Pull it down, please. Thank you.
All right. So Heath Dawson,
and my address is 6295 Skipper Bridge Road. I guess I'm on. So most homeowners in the neighboring community have invested over $500,000 into our properties. Over 30 of our homeowners have gathered at the zoning board meeting and presented their opposition to that. And then in addition, we were supported by that as a commercial banker and a senior financial institution leader. Over the years, as a commercial banker, this would not be something that we would support, or there's a lot of risk in that due to the location of this. It is spot zoning. So again, for the spot zoning portion, it was declined. Now, a couple of other things. If we drive out of our driveway, I turn right and or left within a 6 and a 4 mile radius, directional. There are multiple different Dollar Generals. If we drive around to the 10 different Dollar Generals that are in our area within Lowndes County, you would see trash blowing around the parking lots, dumpsters overfilling, broken down cars in the parking lots, people changing tires in the parking lots, a lot of things that are not representative of our neighborhood. We moved out of a planned unit development right down the road from here, out to where we are. This is all the properties in the area are R1, R4, and or agricultural, so ours is considered a farm portion. We are the adjoining property to this. I don't want to walk out my back door and stare at a dumpster. In addition to this, I do want to go on record to say that I have been disappointed in Mr. Scotty Orenstein, who I asked specifically, reached
Sir,
out to.
Mr. Dawson, I'm going to ask you, we're not going to call out anybody, individuals now, so just
That's
go ahead
fine.
and
Then
keep your
I will
comments.
say that I was committed to come out and see me personally to talk about my concerns about this. That never happened after it was agreed that it would happen. The deal that's being presented, again, is a bad deal for us as a neighborhood, and it does not seem like we are being heard. I would ask that you listen. There were over 30 of us that showed up at the zoning board. It's turned down 7-1. There were over 40 homeowners that showed up at the last meeting that got out and walked out that were here to support and to show their opposition of this.
Okay. Is there anyone else? What? Listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's not going to be any outbursts with applauding or anything like that. We're going to run this meeting. We're going to run it orderly. Now, if anyone wants to do that, there's 2 folks back here in the back of the room that will escort you out. So we're going to run the meeting orderly, so please understand that, and then we'll move forward. All right, please come ahead forward, sir. The record, please.
My name is William Cope, 6332 Skipper Bridge Road. Probably about 580, 600 feet from the Dollar General there. Real quick, just trying to get through here so everybody can get. We know we got a Dollar General in Hayhire 4 miles west. We have one at Walker's Crossing, 6.8 miles. There's no reason for another one at this location. The landowners also have property at the corner of North Ross Road, 122 and Bowdell Road. They have 27 acres, which has more road frontage than 1,900 feet. If it's okay for it to be by our residents, why is it not okay for it to be by their residents, the owner's residents? We had a online petition. I've got copies. I don't know if I'm allowed to give it to you or not. But we had 180 people sign in opposition of the Dollar General.
You can give them to Miss Lovern, the clerk right here.
Yes, sir. And real quick, I took some pictures in that packet. There's some pictures along 122 from the rain, I believe on Sunday, where there's still water in the ditch on 122. My understanding is that DOT has not approved them for a driveway there, so it's going to be on Skipper Bridge Road. Like I said, it's a wet area. The county has a drainage ditch behind Mount Olive Baptist Church that they maintain at least once a year, twice a year. So they're going to have a retention pond who's going to overflow possibly, or be a mosquito breeding ground for us. We're just asking, we don't want any commercial development in that area. This is a rural area, agriculture. I have farm status on my 25 acres, and I would ask that y'all deny this request. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
I'm Roxanne Newton, 5550 Skipper Bridge Road. I'm asking y'all to vote no on this change. As he mentioned, there's plenty of dollar stores, and if you do a little bit of a Google search on Dollar General, you'll find it's a predatory company. It is going out of its way to put these stores up all over the rural areas of the whole country, but predominantly in the South. In fact, Birmingham and Tulsa and the Dallas area has had to make new rules where they can't put these dollar stores up because it's just gotten so bad. And in my mind, you look at a Dollar General and you think this is kind of a low rent area because they don't go into where the property's expensive. They want to go out there where the land is a little bit less expensive. They don't even own the land. And you got developers that are from out of town. You've got the engineer that's from out of town, and they're not serving us. It's gonna benefit only the people from Berrien and Cook County coming down Skipper Bridge Road. Anybody coming from anywhere on 122 is gonna pass a Dollar General on their way to that spot. So it doesn't make sense. And I went through some of y'all's social media, and it just makes me really annoyed because you'll have this, oh, look at our local farmers. We really appreciate them. Show your support for local farmers. Same thing with small businesses. Dollar General is known for taking locally owned businesses and making them bankrupt. You know, they're drawing that, and it's junk food. They don't sell anything good. It's just junk food. And then you have a social media post saying, oh, come on down to the Withlacoochee, help clean it up. And then you want to put a Dollar General, 1,000 feet from the purest part of the Withlacoochee in this whole county? I mean, it's appalling to me. This is the area that, if you don't know the history of Lowndes County, this is where the first settlers came in. And they settled right there on Skipper Bridge Road. I own the property where the first mill was built. There's a little statue down on Franklinville Road that shows the exact spot where the first person lived. They fought the Creek Indians on the Withlacoochee River. And then you got Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church right next door. It's a black church. It's opened its arms to this community. We voted there for 15 years until just recently they moved it to Hayhire. I think it's disrespectful to put an ugly Dollar General right across the street from the church. I drove through every church in our whole district. They're all mostly white. Not one place had a gas station or a Dollar General or a junk store next door to it. Why would you disrespect the black folks here? That they've been great neighbors, welcoming us. So I'm asking you, to put your money where your mouth is and vote no. If you're going to put this on social media, act like you care about the farmers and you care about small businesses and you care about, the Withlacoochee River. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. All right, anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? State your name and address, please.
I live at 6544 Skipper Bridge Road, just tenths of a mile from this location. Real quick, to wrap it up, to touch on the solid facts. Y'all please consider the environmental impact of that area. It's close to the river. I don't think it'll be good for the river. Nobody that lives up there that has a significant amount of acreage moved out there to be near a Dollar General. They would have moved to a Dollar General. It's a special way of life out there, and we don't want to change that. Consider the spot zoning. Spot zoning to me sounds a little bit like cancer. It's like a cell got away from the tumor, it landed, and it expands. So please don't set a precedence there. Sorry, a little emotional about this. Follow the Planning Commission's recommendation to deny, and please listen to the voices of the many, including the 180 that couldn't be here, versus the dollars of the few.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the.
Good evening. My name is Duke Groover, 231 Riverside Drive, Macon, Georgia. I represent Terra Moore Development along with Bill Nigem in connection with this application, and Mary Harris, who's the owner. You've seen the PowerPoints from the staff with the location. I know y'all know where this is, so I'm not going to belabor it, but it is a 3-acre parcel cut out of a bigger 35-acre parcel on that corner of Highway 122 and Skipper Bridge Road. Importantly, there's a slide that was shown and is submitted into the record of the buffer surrounding this proposed development. North, it's 32 acres, I think about 1,000 feet. West to Scruggs Road, it is 1,200 feet. That would remain RA if you did, in fact, rezone this 3 acres. South, there are wetlands to the south, and there's probably 700 feet to the nearest residence. And then east, obviously, is the Baptist Church. That's significant because of the concerns about it and it being intrusive into a residential area, surrounded by buffer. Now, we have heard today already, and I appreciate that, and we heard at the P&Z hearing, various concerns raised by the concerned public in opposition. That is legitimate. That is why we're here. That is why you're here to listen to those things. However, a rezoning decision, respectfully, is fundamentally a legal process. It starts a legal process. The concerns that have been expressed primarily are legitimate personal concerns, but I would argue, and I'm going to try to point this out in my presentation, it is not evidence going into a rezoning decision, and it is not evidence to support keeping this EA zoning. The rezoning decision is governed by both the Constitution of the state of Georgia and the United States Constitution and your own code. And the Supreme Court basically has set out a standard that says when you use the police power of zoning to restrict the use of somebody's personal property because of the concerns about constitutional right to control your property as you see fit, it is only, the zoning classification is only legitimate if it bears a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, morality, and general welfare. So that's sort of the standard that governs decisions like this. The private and public interest, that is the private interest of the landowner in this case, as well as the public interest that you just heard from, are balanced in a process that you established. The P&Z staff, who are the professional staff that you hired, looked at that factor, looked at the concerns, and looked at your ordinances and chose to recommend rezoning here. And I think you should respectfully consider that in your deliberations. The final paragraph from the staff report states that they recommended it and that the TRC, the Technical Review Committee, did not have any objections, which is significant because those are the professionals countywide that look into some of the concerns that you've heard about trash or about traffic or how the egress ingress is going to be handled. That is the staff that looks into that, and they have recommended that this be rezoned to CC, Crossroads Commercial. Now, the factors that are relevant here is that if the damage to the owner in this case, which is Ms. Harris, is significant in keeping it EA, and there's relatively little benefit to the public in keeping it EA, then rezoning is appropriate. That's basically what the cases say. Mr. Nigem, Bill Nigem, who, by the way, cannot be here because he's got COVID, so he didn't think y'all appreciate him showing up. He has submitted a letter, and it's in your record, and he's going through all your factors. And I'm not going to belabor it. I only have 6 minutes and 5 seconds, but I'll hit some of the high points. The factors in support of rezoning basically boil down to several points. The first, as I had already said, is what is the significant damage to the owner, Ms. Harris in this case, in keeping it EA? Number one, it significantly deprives her of the use of her own property. The courts have said that significant damage can be shown by depressed market value, lack of marketability, and if the property is not economically feasible to develop into anything. Here, the two things that really can be used on this property under the EA zoning is agriculture and residence. Well, We submitted this in the record, but there's a letter and it's supported by the evidence. Because of the location on these two well-traveled roads, nobody has bought or is going to buy this property to build a house. And because of the wetlands on it, you can't do anything with it agriculturally. So it does significantly impact her in the use of her own property, which is a big concern of the courts. The best evidence of that is the fact it's been remained vacant since God was a boy. It's always been vacant. Conversely, the second point of this balancing test is I would argue there's no substantial benefit to the public of Lowndes County in keeping the property estate agricultural. If it is rezoned, there's no damage to the public here, no legal damage to the public. We did a market valuation report that has been submitted into the record by Tom Wilson, who looked at 5 different locations of Dollar Generals in Lowndes County and the surrounding residential property. There was only 5 that had market data. And he found in those cases, as is in the record, that in all of those cases, the residential properties went up and not down. And that's because the market drives it for different factors. It has nothing to do with the Dollar General either way. It is not going to decrease values. There's no evidence of traffic issues here. This is a drop-in store. This is not meant to be a destination location. It's not going to increase traffic because it's going to be people going to another location who drop in and buy, diapers or toilet paper or whatever it is. So it's not going to increase traffic. There were concerns expressed at the last hearing about crime. We've done an open records request. There is no crime, no violent crime in the last year at the 2 rural Dollar Generals in Lowndes County, Burmis Road and New Statenville Road. And so those types of concerns are not evidentially based. We want the county to stay rural, this area of the county rural, and we don't like Dollar General, and we have too many Dollar General stores. Legitimate personal concerns, I understand it. The courts have said, though, that is not a legal standard. Zoning decisions based on a policy, there's enough commercially zoned property, is insufficient to justify denial of rezoning. That's a quote from the Sellers case, a Supreme Court case. The public in this case, significantly, has already spoken as to the propriety of rezoning this particular location. And it did so through the Joint Comprehensive Plan of 2021. And that plan was brought in public input, including stakeholders in this commission and public from across Lowndes County. They put this property in a character area, which is the Ag Forestry Conservation Character Area, that specifically allows CC, commercial crossroads rezoning. And as Mr. Dillard said, the comprehensive plan does recommend CC rezoning. So the public has had input at large from Lowndes County. I understand the public today here, a lot of them don't approve it, and that's fine. But the public has had input into this. And the reason for the commercial crossroads rezoning is appropriate to this location. It is a major thoroughfare, a major crossroads. The CC zoning is designed for a location like this so as to not spread beyond that location. It will prohibit commercial spread from that crossroads east, west, north, or south. That's the purpose of that CC designation. It is meant to put in small retail stores like this to serve the surrounding areas where people driving through. That's the point of the CC designation. So there's no concern about domino effect because you can't go past this intersection for commercial purposes from a CC designation. We submitted a poll that we did countywide and in District 2, solicited 722 people in the county and 274 in the district. And the majority, and it's not overwhelming, it's 39 to 30% wanted a Dollar General in this location. Countywide, countywide, it was 67% who wanted more convenient grocery and household items locations to shop from. So the polls submitted for whatever use you want to give it, but the real key here is that comprehensive plan where the public had input at this particular location and said, yes, we want a CC designation there. In conclusion, I'm biased. Everybody who's spoken is biased. We all have biases in this case. But because this is a legal decision, who do you listen to when you're making your final decision? Your professional, unbiased staff who have no dog in this fight. And what did they recommend? They recommended this location in furtherance of your comprehensive plan be rezoned to CC. and I would ask you to listen to their recommendation and to rezone this. I appreciate it. Any questions you have, I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I'll now close the public hearing portion of this meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it back over to you for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we deny the request.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Evans. Any discussion on the motion? All right, I'll call the vote by show of hands. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Motion carries. Request is denied. All right, we'll move on now to agenda item 7A. Now, folks, if you want to take a minute and leave, you're welcome to do it, but we have just a little bit of business to do, and then we'll move on. Okay, we'll go ahead now and continue with the agenda item 7A. Commissioner, for your consideration is to adopt the resolution accepting the infrastructure for the landings Phase 3. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir, thank you. This is for the Landings Phase 3 subdivision, which is located on Valdell Road, just north of Sermons Road. The developer has requested Lowndes County to accept the infrastructure to include roads, drainage, and utilities. Staff has made all the final inspections, and all work is complete.
Any questions for Mr. McLeod? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt a resolution of infrastructure for land in Phase 3.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Evans to adopt the resolution accepting the infrastructure for the landings Phase 3. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item 7B is to adopt the resolution accepting the infrastructure for Ballantyne subdivision. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. Ballantyne subdivision is located on Clightstone Road and Simpson Road. The developer, again, has requested Lowndes County to accept all infrastructure to include roads, drainage, and utilities. Staff has made all the final inspections, and the construction and paperwork are complete. There are a few minor punch list items that have to be completed before the final plat will be recorded.
Commissioners, any questions for Mr. McLeod? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we adopt the resolution accepting the infrastructure, sir.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the resolution accepting the infrastructure for Ballantyne subdivision. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Agenda item 7C is the special assessment rate for 2023. Ms. Black.
Yes, sir, thank you. This is a housekeeping item. In January of each year, you're required to set your interest rate for any special assessments that would be done during the calendar year. Those are generally for paving or utility districts. If they're not paid off in the initial 90-day phase, they revert to an installment paid over up to 10 years. The interest rate is set at 2% above prime. The current prime is 7.5%, so the interest rate would be 9.5%, and that is up from 5.25 last year.
Okay. Any questions from Ms. Black? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the special assessment rate at 9.5 for 2023.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the special assessment rate at the rate of 9.5 for 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7D is the approval of the District Attorney's Federal VOCA Grant Application Renewal. You heard from the District Attorney's Office at the work session yesterday morning. If you have any questions, I'm going to direct you to Ms. Dukes, but otherwise, if you haven't, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the VOCA grant application of the district attorney.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the District Attorney's Federal VOCA Grant Application Renewal. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7E is the purchase of server blades. Mr. Costu.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This is a request to replace 6 server blades that are out of support with 6 new server blades. This will go in 2 of our 3 data centers.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Costu? At your own risk.
What's the server blade?
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. County Manager report, Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You all remember when COVID started a couple of years ago, we were buying supplies. We had to buy plexiglass. We had to do some improvements in some offices to create opportunities for social distancing. There were quite a few unbudgeted items that we had to go ahead and make the expenditures on. Those things were purchased under the guise that FEMA had committed for reimbursement. That has been quite the process through Mr. Ty's office as well as our finance department, but I am happy to report that as of this week, we received the last reimbursement from FEMA in the amount of $116,000. That is everything that we submitted for reimbursement with the exception of about $28,000 in TV equipment that had to be purchased for the court system. Those purchases were also a part of the new jury selection process that the Clerk of Superior Court was already under a mandate for. We would have had to have purchased those things anyway. We did submit for reimbursement in case FEMA found favor with us there. They did not. We had an option to appeal that $28,000, but we felt like that we're better taking their final offer and moving on with that. So we have closed out that process. So I just want to thank Ashley and Stephanie because that's been quite the back and forth in submitting all of that. So we are wrapped up there, and I think fared very well, wondering if we were going to get any reimbursement back whatsoever.
Thank you.
The groundbreaking on Thursday at the former Griner property is at 10:45 on the Webster Street side. We know that there's going to be some rain tonight and tomorrow. The ground will already be soft, so we're trying to get you all parked as close to the dirt digging location as we can without anyone having to walk out too far into that. Public Works as well as Ms. Barrett will be taking a look at that, so if something changes, we will let you all know. But just plan to park in the coroner's old parking lot there. Over the next 2 days, we will be participating in a cybersecurity exercise. This is championed by ITS and our contract with Tyler Technologies. We exercise a lot of things related to the hospital and the airport and public safety and other things. One of our biggest vulnerabilities, though, is cybersecurity. So we will be on the second floor with our departments for several hours over the next 2 days, really playing what if. You know, what are our continuity priorities? What happens if we lose data? How long can we continue to provide data and services to the community based on, you know, what that compromise might be? So I just hope that you all take the same comfort in our security protection as far as our technology goes that we do in other things, and making sure and knowing that we've exercised those things. And we're looking for our vulnerabilities, not to pat ourselves on the back regarding what we do well. Tomorrow morning, we have a meeting, staff with Moody Air Force Base regarding the golf course and a project that will allow for some water service redundancy between Lowndes County and Moody Air Force Base. These are done through intergovernmental service agreements. If any of you would like to attend that, I can give you the time and location for that. The chairman will be in attendance, and we'll have several of the department heads and myself and the Moody's coming to us, and then we'll also be calling into DC for those representatives to talk to us there. The Bird Supper is next Wednesday at the Depot in Atlanta. We'll start at 5 o'clock. And again, I want to thank Ms. Barwick as well as Ms. Lovern for their ongoing efforts to get that event planned. It's going really well, and we're really excited to take South Georgia to Atlanta. We'll have several of our department heads that will be in attendance as well. We have a meeting with our Home Builders Association stakeholders on February the 9th at 1:30 regarding permits and inspections. You all remember when we started this process, we worked with those stakeholders and we promised them meetings to keep them abreast and get their input as we move forward. So with the approval of the recent approval of the software, before we get too far down the road in building that software, we want to sit down with our customers and get their input from the very beginning. So you all are invited to attend that as well. And the last thing I have for you this evening is we do have some inclement weather coming in tomorrow. So Ashley, if you'd like to come up, and Ashley didn't really want to do this, being that he's dressed in his polo shirt because his arm's still on the mend, and I told him we'd take him one wing without a coat and tie.
So good evening, and I would say, while we're talking about the weather, keep our neighbors in Cook County in our thoughts and prayers.
Yes.
They did, Sunday night, they had a tornado come through, thankfully, talking to their EMA director, I don't believe they had any injuries, but they did have some damage, and here we are again, we're looking at some more weather coming in. And a similar system, a squall line, kind of like what we saw Sunday. The timing is a little more favorable, I guess, if there's a favorable time, because it is gonna come in during the day and not at night when it's dark. We can kind of see it coming. But we are looking at, after daybreak in the morning, to the west of us, having a squall line develop, moving from west to east, as they typically do. Sometime around noon, around lunchtime tomorrow is the best guess of when it might actually get here to Lowndes County. So we've sent out an email to all of our partners and stakeholders, kind of giving everybody a heads up. We're definitely going to be watching the weather. With these squall lines, those tornadoes like what hit Cook County, it could come in and it could break up, which we typically, in the past, we've for the most part, had some favorable, Sunday night. It got kind of windy and got kind of rough, but we didn't really have any damage. But tornadoes can form anywhere along a squall line. Even without a tornado, straight line winds, I always tell people 70-mile-an-hour winds do damage, whether it's rotating or it's going in a straight line. So we're definitely going to have all of our public safety, public works, everybody on heightened alert, and again, just encouraging everybody to make sure they know what they will do. We're probably going to be under tornado watch most of the day tomorrow, so if that watch becomes a warning, making sure everybody knows what they would do, where they would go to seek safety, because again, we can't really stop the damage if a tornado is coming towards you. We can't stop it, but we can make sure we're prepared and make sure that we keep everybody safe, and then we're prepared to respond afterwards. If y'all have any specific questions, it's mostly going to be a wind event, not a whole lot of rain. If y'all have any questions about the weather, if we get any updates, we'll send them out, but I'd be glad to answer anything you might have.
Those expected times are when? Are you thinking that we'll see the worst part of it?
The most likely time is around 12, 1 o'clock, I'd say between 12 and 2, if you look at the pinpoint forecast. Now, they gave us like a cable guy time frame, like between 10 and 4. But if you kind of go look at the forecast, the percentages really ramp up around 12 o'clock, and they kind of start dying down about 2 or 3 o'clock. So one of our big focuses is going to be keeping an eye on schools. If they come in at 12, because it's going to move through pretty quick. So if it comes in at 12 and gone by 1, then the schools are probably a fairly safe place to be. But we communicate with all of our schools, public and private, on a regular basis during these times. So if it's coming through at 2:45 when they're releasing schools, hey, we're going to probably hold the kids and make sure we're not sending buses out into a storm, those type things. So that's some of what will be going on tomorrow, making sure that, that's one of the main concerns as far as timing goes, is making sure we're not sending school buses out and letting kids out right there in the middle of a storm.
We appreciate it, Ashley.
Yeah. Yeah, Ashley, I would just add again, thank you for all the good work that you do. Certainly, it's a great time to recognize all of our first responders that, as you said, will be on a heightened alert. Our Public Works Department that will be prepared, to help clear roads and get things opened up in the event that we do have some significant wins. So again, I know it's a coordinated effort and it's a team effort of everybody working together. So we appreciate your input and all the hard work that you put into just trying to build us something here to let us know. I mean, what you do is the perspective is that you can just take the data that you have and look at it and say, this is what I think, whether it happens or not happens. But fortunately, we're in a place with you to where we can have a heightened level of concern, and then, of course, our public works and our public safety folks as well, all of our first responders. So thank you all. All right. Any citizens wishing to be heard?
We have one citizen wishing to be heard. Before we move to that, I'd just like to add to your comments, Mr. Chairman, that the other partnership that Ashley has with that is our 911 department, as well as Ms. Barwick, because Ashley's message does not get out to either party, whether it be our responders or to the citizens, without those partnerships there. And I'm extremely proud of how quickly they all work together when we start moving in that direction. The last thing that I have is Public Works is clipping shoulders on Easel Road. Any of you who've gotten calls about shoulders being clipped in the past, you know that can be an ugly process when they start, cutting that dirt down on those shoulders. But Public Works works to make that as clean as they can and get done as soon as they can. It doesn't take long for that dirt to settle back in. But if anyone gets any complaints about the dirt being dug up in the shoulder on Easel Road, they are clipping shoulders.
I don't see why anybody would complain about it, but they could.
They call
It
them.
helps get the water off the roads.
Yes, it does.
People complain about anything, Chairman.
All right.
We actually have two.
Okay, we've got, our first one is Mr. John Quarterman. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Howdy, my name is John Waterman. I live at 6565 Waterman Road, and I get my mail at 3338 Country Club Road, Suite L, PMB 336 in Valdosta. So I have come here to compliment the county and the Moody Air Force Base fire departments, because a couple of weeks ago I was burning 20 acres of longleaf pine trees that I planted in CRP. As most of you know, you have to do every few years, because otherwise, it gets to be a real fire hazard and you get oaks growing in there and all that kind of stuff. So our neighbor to the south, he's out there helping us, which was good. And there are no neighbors to the east. Well, that's me, or neighbors across the road, it's Cottonfield. But to the west, as many of you know, there's a subdivision which got grandfathered in before countywide zoning. So none of y'all had anything to do with that being zoned that way, don't worry. Okay, so as always happens, somebody over there called the county fire department. And here's my compliment. They showed up. Not only did they show up, but because of the mutual aid agreement with Moody Fire Department also showed up. Now, we didn't actually need them. And they went and looked and saw we had fire breaks and we had people patrolling, and we'd almost burned all the way around anyway. And, they talked for a while and then went away. Now, I did try to make it unnecessary for so many people to come out. I called down to the county fire department before and said, I'm going to be burning, this is where, here's the burn permit. But that didn't percolate to the specific person in charge of the north of the county. Next time I'll try harder to make sure it actually gets there. I know they have to send somebody out, but that way they could just send one person and not have so many people do it. But my main point is I want to compliment the county and Moody Fire Departments for showing up whenever anybody calls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, any other business? No other business, no comments. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Huh? Oh, he's here? I'm sorry. I thought that you said he wasn't here.
No, he's here.
Okay, we do have, I'm sorry, we have one more citizen wishing to be heard. Mr. John Morris, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. I apologize, I misunderstood the, Ms. Deft.
That's okay. My name is John Morris, 4872 Lower Street, Valdosta, 60105. I'm here to address just one thing this afternoon concerning your noise ordinance. when it was effective back in November 1, 2011. There's a few items I'd like to bring to your attention that I find that is not, it does not address. Section 1, 2, 3, and 6M. 1 talks about the noise distribution and disturbing your neighbor, disturbing the resident or your neighbor. Sections 2, type of audience, sound noise. 3, depict the device of sound. And 6M, motor vehicles. I'm encountering noise, and when you make the emergency call, a non-emergency call, you're told that noise is admittable, and it can run a noise, but I asked the non-emergency officer at what volume or what ohms. They said there's no, that we don't have a ordinance on that. I said, well, the plain noise is being played or sounds, and you have no way of determining how high a volume. They said no. Said it was not addressed in the audience that was rendered back in November of 2011. So what I'm here today to give a few observations that render myself very disturbing. Noise in the neighbors being played from stereos, cars, working on old cars, grinding berries, and I can go to my window sometime when they're working on vibration from my window. I can feel the windows. I live 40 yards from the nearest neighbor, and it's very disturbing. Non-emergency contact. I found that when you make the call, when the officer shows up, the noise is suspended. When the officer leaves, it starts the noise back again. So what I'm saying is that we need to have nothing wrong with the noise ordinance you have. It just doesn't address how loud sound can be come from anywhere. And if you go through your whole audience, your complete that you published back in 2011, it does not say anything about the volume of noise. It says something about the volume of noise at night, but does not address the noise in the volume in the daytime. And I'm being wakened several times by the noise coming from different places. I address it. I think I made about 4 or 5 calls. Got a few incident reports here. But until we address the noise audit during the daytime from 6 a.m. to 7, it stands now, any person in any corporate area can make noise without being challenged because you don't have anything to prohibit them from doing it. This does not say anything about from 7 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. p.m. where a person can make noise and be held accountable for it. Does not say it, does not address it. Okay. In closing, if you would consider the volume of the noise that being counted by different individuals. I'm not the only one. Other neighbors have told me, I told them I'd be speaking on them tonight. They said that I didn't take the name, didn't think it was necessary. But if you call the emergency number, call the non-emergency number, they cannot help us because they have no way to hold the person making the noise accountable. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, no other business. I will entertain that motion to adjourn at this time.
Motion to adjourn.